Dave Birkett here from the Detroit Free Press, along with Carlos Monarrez. And Carlos, we are back across town doing a Zoom after the first day of padded practice for the Lions today. It was good to see, even though we were socially distanced at practice, beyond socially distanced, since we were at separate sets of bleachers watching from different parts of the field.
Yeah, I was at the poor folk over in Bleach B section. You were with the rich kids up there in the gated community, which is fitting to that's on brand for Dave Birkett, so I don't have a problem.
I don't want to tell you when Bob Quinn walked by our bleacher, what he said. He was like, you guys, I'm not even going to say, I don't want to make anyone mad, but he certainly respected the six pack that was over at the one media bleacher. So we missed you guys. So it's different not being able to converse with you during practice.
So what was set the stage, the scene for the people?
All right. So look, this is in my observations. Subscriber special out there. So go ahead and click on that on freak.com. Subscribe. It's cheap. We appreciate your support. But look, I thought the football was very much like what football has always been. I mean, you're not socially distancing on the football field, right? People are still blocking and tackling and trying to defend passes, and the coaches are out there teaching. So in that regard, there was nothing different, but away from that, there was a lot different. There was anytime a player needed water, one of the trainers or equipment guys, I mean, they were all over the field, and the Lions are sort of double dipping on duties right now because so few people are allowed to have contact with players. But, they would get a single small plastic water bottle out of a rolling cooler, essentially, and give it to the player. Player would finish, they take the bottle, throw it in a big plastic bag of recycling. If a player needed a towel, same thing. They had a sort of like a collapsible, space-saving plastic bag with all these fresh towels in it. Player would finish with the towel, they'd take it, they'd put it in, there was a mesh laundry bag attached to a bigger cooler that they would put them in. So they are certainly taking steps to make sure that, some of the things that you do to prevent the spread of COVID are being done on the football field, even if the sport itself is still being played, in regular fashion. Even Matt Patricia, he had on one of the neck things today, gaiters, right? And he, he's standing out on the field, he's coaching, he's blowing his whistle, whatever. So he doesn't have it up all the time. But I saw Jamie Collins walk over to him. Patricia pulls it up over his face before he starts talking to him. So players, coaches, the entire team is very much aware of what's going on in the time that we're living in while we try to squeeze football in.
Yeah, and I think we've talked to Bob Quinn about that a little bit, off the record, about just how players are handling it, how they expect them to handle it. TJ Hawkinson talked to us today about the same thing, how he was in quarantine for a little while, and just how he admitted people of his age group don't tend to take it as seriously. And I think they need that constant reminder. The Lions are doing a really good job. I've covered the PGA Tour here. I've covered Tigers games. They're all doing it a little bit differently. But I think the NFL they know the eyes of the sports world are going to be intensely on them pretty soon. There's a lot of people on their rosters. It's a big challenge for them. So they're smart to do as much as they can, definitely right now while they're in their training camp bubble, to mitigate things.
And I've said this before, I think they've done a good job, the league as a whole, and certainly the Lions, because that's what we see in terms of all the measures and protocols that they've put in place. Now, is it enough? Can an outbreak happen? Certainly, the numbers right now are fantastic. So you hope that continues. But, there certainly are concerns as the thing opens up. But I give the NFL and the Lions credit for all that they've done so far. We'll talk real quick about what we saw on the field today, Carlos. I think, Jonah Jackson was the only rookie that we saw working with the first team. He was out there at right guard. Jeff Okudah, number 3 overall pick, was with the second team defense. He did go against Kenny Galladay in the one-on-ones, at least for one snap. DeAndre Swift was working primarily with the second team, though, that position rotates a little bit more. And Matt Patricia said, don't read much into this. It's sort of the rotation. And, I think we do have to remember that they had a few practices before, just not in pads. Do you read anything into either one of those? Jeff Okudah needing more time, Jonah Jackson being ready to go? Is there, I don't know, how do you sort of read what you saw on the field from those guys?
I think you wrote an article recently saying Jeff Okudah is on the short list for the Hall of Fame for the Lions. He's the next guy up. He or Stafford. So, it's a little disappointing he wasn't, interceptions or whatever. But I think the one snap I saw against Galladay, he slipped. So, Galladay got past him. Yeah, I can't read anything into that really. I mean, I know you fancy beat writers like to make, a lot about every single snap on the one-on-one, who beat who, and, oh no, this guy didn't look good and whatever. Observations, they're so important at this point. Absolutely, and I think that I don't read much into that. I think, to me, when the first day of camp, I was looking at guys, especially the rookies or new free agents that we haven't seen. I'm just kind of interested to check out how they carry themselves on the field, how much they help other players, how much they're listening or how much they're making mistakes sometimes. Also, just how they look. DeAndre Swift to me looks small. Like, I think,
we're the same thing in our bleacher, no doubt.
But as
Jay Curse looks huge at safety. He's a big dude out there.
Javon Curse, Jamie Collins looks like a defensive end. He looks like a big, lanky, big dude. But we were making a joke about DeAndre Swift, like, yeah, it looks a little small, like a bowling ball. Like, didn't the Lions have another small running back about 20 years ago, 30 years, who was pretty good, decent, I think. So I don't remember his name, but yeah. So I mean, they come in all shapes and sizes. I did like Stafford threw a couple of nice passes to Quentin Cephas. He looked good, So there's always that little bit of a, how much does a receiver and a quarterback have a little bit of a chemistry early on? Obviously, there's a lot more that goes into that with the film study and the teamwork and all that other stuff. But when they're on the same page early, that's nice. Jonah Jackson, he was kind of the opposite of DeAndre Swift, where he looks the part. He looks like a grown man playing that position. So he looked kind of impressive to me in that regard. But yeah, I mean, the one-on-one battles and this and that, like, I don't put a heck of a lot of stock into them. But just at first glance, I think it was an interesting. I like what you said about the, how they were. Were you saying that it looked like a normal camp as far as they were? You said
yeah, from a football standpoint.
Yeah, it looked very normal. All the drills, all the, whatever it was, having to run when you drop a ball or a pass or something like that. So it did feel. Jamie Edmonds was in our poor folk section, and she said, like, it feels normal. Like, this is the first kind of thing we've seen that kind of, we're out here watching them, no fans, but it feels kind of normal. And it did. It was one of the first things that, at least for camp, the way it is for us usually, it kind of felt normal.
Yeah, it was good. I just want to add to that, because I agree with most of what you said. I mean, they are going to rotate who plays with the first team, who plays with the second team throughout camp. Jonah, he did struggle a little bit in those one-on-ones against Nick Williams, but I think that's good. You want to see those rookies have those learning moments, because then you want to come back, a week from now and see how he does and make sure you see some growth. And they're going to be counting on him to play. Maybe it's Kenny Wiggins, maybe it's him, whoever. But I think Jonah is, he would probably be the slight favorite for that job, and you got to get him those reps. And look, Okudah, I mean, it'll be disappointing if he doesn't start week one. It's not disappointing that he wasn't out there, day one today, because he's going to be out there. He's going to play a lot. The one thing I will say about that, though, is the player that they had taking first team reps was Amani Oruwariye. And, it's good to see him out there. I mean, this is a 5th round pick last year who didn't play much, but I thought held his own when he was out there last season. So maybe there's some hope that, the Lions are developing a little bit of depth at that cornerback position. And
well, let me just play devil's advocate. What will be the reaction from Lions fandom if Amani Oruwariye gets the start over Jeff Okudah?
Yeah, I think that fans would be right to scratch their head and wonder why. I mean, you take a cornerback number 3 in the draft, the first one in more than 20 years. You expect him to be a big time contributor, and that doesn't mean that he's not going to have some rough patches along the way. That's a natural, to play that position as a rookie. So things aren't going to be smooth always. But if he doesn't crack the lineup, I think fans would rightfully wonder why. And is it taking him longer than expected, or what? What's the hiccup? What in the learning curve has he not got yet? But again, I expect him to be out there week 1 against the Bears. I expect him to be out there for all 16 this year. He's a really good player. I think he'll be that in time for the Lions. Let's end it on this, because I'm always leery about doing these sort of virtual, talks that we have here, that my internet's going to, conk out or something. Day 2 tomorrow. You're not going to be out there tomorrow. Off day Wednesday. Then they come back, and I think there's 4 straight practices. Thursdays, yeah, 3 or 4 straight practices before they get another off day. So later in the week, Carlos, is there one person, one thing you saw today, one thing that you're interested in seeing, that you want to see more of, someone that you saw that you liked what you saw, or you didn't see enough of, that when you're back out at training camp that you want to make sure you see a lot of that person, someone who could have an impact on the Lions this year?
Other than the long snapper battle, I would say, like I said, Quintus Cephas, he looked good. I mean, he looked impressive.
Cephas or Cephas? Cephas?
Cephas, I'm sorry, Cephas. Bo Cephas, I don't know, whatever. It's always interesting when and we saw this with, T.J. Hawkinson last year. He had a rapport with Stafford pretty early. Danny Amendola, who should have been the catch leader for the Lions last year, but I don't know. You slipped somebody some money and that didn't happen. But it's always interesting. Amendola was new last year. Just always interesting to see when they're on the same page. I didn't get to see much of DeAndre Swift. They were kind of far away in the field from where I was sitting, and he's small. So I don't know how many handoffs he got, or I think he dropped one pass, just a swing pass.
Yep.
From Chase Daniel.
I remember that play. It was a little wide for him. I don't know that
it was a little wide, but it was hard to see. He's behind players on the sideline and all that. So who knows? But I like to see, and especially since they were in pads a day, it's always kind of interesting to see the running backs and what they're doing. Yeah. So I didn't get a good sense of his elusiveness, but I'd like to see some more out of him. And Okudah, I'd like to see some, 7-on-7 stuff or whatever, and see Okudah, back down some passes and all that. Definitely you want to see. I like one other guy. I'm sorry. I'm covering everybody, so you can be done talking. But Desmond Truffant, there was a pass in the end zone and he almost intercepted it. He screamed and gave some fake push-ups, to punish himself. But it was I like that.
Nice play on that Reddit. He wasn't to his man. I think it was the Hawkinson maybe right down the seam. So.
I don't know. He stuck an arm up. I mean, it would have been an absolute circus catch if he'd come down with it, but he batted it down. But I like that competitiveness out of him. So I want to see him make some picks and, let Staff know about it.
I know you don't want to hear me talk, but I like to hear myself talk, so I'm going to answer my own question too. But I'm with you that on DeAndre Swift. I mean, I just do want to see a little bit more of him. I didn't notice it because I wasn't watching the blocking drill that they were doing with running backs taking on linebackers early on. But Larry Lates from the AP said that he didn't think Swift took any reps there. So I don't know if he's dealing with something. Matt Patricia certainly didn't say anything. He did take some reps in team, but maybe there's bits and pieces that they're trying to give him. He's a guy that's on my radar. And then, later on this week, I want to pay a little more attention to how they're using their linebackers too, because how they use Jamie Collins, how they use Jared Davis, I think that's going to define the rotation a little bit this year, and will maybe, give them some options on defense, because I do think they're going to have to generate a lot of their pass rush that way. So
are you going to be able to discern much from how they're using linebackers in practice versus in games where they're going to be trying to
look, they're going to move those guys around a lot, but I do want to see, how much is Jared Davis playing on the edge? Are they, using him in a lot of blitz situations? And maybe those are things that we can't write as much. There are certain practice things, obviously, that we get to see that, maybe we can't go into details on, but for my own knowledge, just on how they're going to use that linebacking core, because between Christian Jones and Jelani Tavai, Jamie Collins, Jared Davis, that's 4 guys right there that you expect to play. And split time at the linebacking core, and I think there's some versatility in that group, and so again, the Lions are going to have playing nickel, playing some of their sub-package defense. They're probably going to have 3 of those linebackers on the field the vast majority of the time. So I kind of want to get a feel for what that rotation is going to look like, how they're going to try to use guys in different ways this fall. Sound good?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Smart, maybe.
What's that?
So did I sound smart?
Yeah, for sure. For you, yeah, definitely. Do you remember much of Jared Davis being used last year in camp as a blitzer? Because they want you to blitz. You're not really trying to get the quarterback.
Well, I don't know. I mean, he was hurt. Remember, he was hurt a lot last year. He had the ankle. I think it was the ankle that he had last year. 2 years ago, though, he had so much success blitzing, and I think that can be a strong suit of him. And from an offensive standpoint, Matt Patricia's talked about this. He wants to see things through the quarterback's eyes, right? Who's he identifying as that blitzer? Is it Jamie Collins? Well, what if you're bringing Jared Davis over here? So I think they have some of those options, and that's look. I don't think this defense is going to be great this year. I mean, I have some concerns about it, just after what we've seen the last couple of years. But I think that's one thing that this team can do, this defense can do to, maybe produce at a higher level than maybe the expectations are right now.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's wrap it at that. Like I said, it was good seeing you. I think you're going to be out at Tigers on Wednesday, right? Casey Mize, are you out there?
I will be virtually covering the Tigers on Thursday from
Okay.
home, I believe.
All right, well,
you know what? It's COVID times. Anything can change. So
true, very true. I just I was gonna plug my fantasy baseball team since you're covering.
Did you have to sell your Gale Sayers jersey to cover your fantasy baseball losses, or why is it not around? Where is that? Sure.
I am out of my office. I'm in my kitchen right now. I just, when I got home from practice, I sort of set up here and, I don't know, sitting at the kitchen table. The kids are at my mom's. Wife is working, so sort of have the whole house to myself. You don't want to see if I'm wearing pants or shorts or nothing. I don't know. We'll see.
Got your eye on the kitchen staff. You're gonna. The butler's gonna make you dinner pretty soon. So.
I gotta go. The butler is wrapping up right now. My chef is wrapping up the food, and the butler is bringing over the wine to me. So that'll do it for us here. For Carlos Monarrez, I'm Dave Birkett, Freep.com.